Hello again, YouTubers. So the next part in this series of Shows Your Workshop, it's the milling machine tooling, and I did say in the previous video I have quite a lot of tooling, so I'll try to work out the best way of going through it. So I've decided to show, first of all, the tooling for a Clarkson holder. If none of you have ever heard of a Clarkson, you'll see it. You'll have seen it in my previous videos if you've seen any of my previous videos. But I'm going to go into a little bit more depth and show you the Clarkson set I've got. It's very old and they're not really used that much anymore. They were quite an industrial thing, although this is only MT2, so it won't have been heavy industry, will it? That's the most taper. But I've got some pretty small cutters, ranging right through up to large-ish, what I call large cutters. So we'll start off with the small ones. I've got them out on the bench, and we'll take a walk over to the bench and we'll go through them, starting off with the small ones. I'll show you the collets that hold the Clarkson bits and what's unique about them. Standard parallel cutters are great, and that's what most people use, and it's what I nearly always use. And they go into my Collet Holder. This is different. You could use these cutters in an Collet Holder, and I'll show you how or why, but I don't usually, because I've got quite a bit of carbide stuff, which is better anyway. So without further ado, let's go and have a look, and I'll show you what we've got. Right, so in the first instance I'll show you the holder. It's quite a big thing actually. So that's a Clarkson tool holder. This on the back's an MT2 taper that goes in my mill, and it's got an M10 thread in it for the drawbar. This particular one, and not all of them have it, is also got a damper ring, which is probably beneficial if you've only got MT2. I've never found MT2 to be weak, but some people say they're a wet noodle. And you actually put the thing in with the drawbar, nip it up, and then you run the damper ring up till it touches the underside of your quill, and you lock it with the bar, and it gives it stability, because it's not only then holding on the MT2, it's also pressing up against the bottom of the quill with the damper ring. In the front of it you've got the Collet Holder, which unscrews, and that holds your various collets, and in the bottom of there is a hardened steel stud, and in the back of your cutters there's a little dinky pinhole in the smaller ones. The bigger ones have got a bigger one, but they've got a pinhole in there. Whether you can make that out or not, let's have a look on a big one. That's on a bigger one. You see that pinhole? Well, that bites into the hardened steel pin at the back when you tighten it in. These are all small ones that I've got, and some of them are extremely small. I don't know if that's focusing, but let's have a look, see if I can see what size it is. And it says 1/16, that 1/16 of an inch, that cutter. Oops, sorry, that's a 1/16 of an inch. So you can go right down to small stuff, and the biggest I've got roughly in that range would be that one. Could do with my magnifying. Right, so that one's a quarter. That's a quarter. And for every specific sizes in the series, you have a Collet Holder, and these go up in different sizes, which I'll show you. So that fits in and pushes through, and then you screw that in, and that comes out of the back, and that then presses into the pin at the back of the holder, held in with the bottom of the collet chuck, and you screw that in and nip it up. So all this, what I'm showing you, is all stuff I've bought second hand. It didn't cost a lot of money, and I bought most of these all in one go from some guy, and then I bought odd collet holders from an individual that I didn't have, ones I didn't have. So that's the smallest set I've got. We'll move that out of the way. We'll bring in a larger set. Okay, so this is, I believe, 3/8 set, if I'm not mistaken. So again, that's a larger collet. Yeah, that's 3/8, yeah. So that's a 3/8 one. And again, these are different cutters. Again, all HSS. I mean, these are 4 flute, which are great for taking lots of metal off. Great for side milling. 4 flute, 3 flute, 2 flute, they always say is better if you're cutting a slot. It clears better. So that's a set. This is just some of. I have got quite a few more, but there was no point in getting them all out of the tray. But that's the 3/8 collet holder. Sorry, collet. Into your holder, and all these different bits. They're all, as I say, Clarkson, are threaded, and there is some types of, I don't know, is it Dickinson? I can't remember. There's another company that made them, and I believe they're interchangeable. I think the threads were the same, and I don't know what that thread is, but I'm assuming it'll be Imperial. Okay, I haven't got any carbide tooling for the Clarkson, and it's very rare to find it. You'll find tons of HSS on eBay and elsewhere, auction sites, tons of it, but not much in the way carbide. Moving up. This is a bigger set. I ain't got as many of these. I believe that's 1/2 inch. Yeah, that's an 1/2 inch collet. So that's your 1/2 inch collet. And these are cutters that fit into an 1/2 inch collet. Now, these cutters are not specifically 1/2 inch. Some of them are bigger or smaller. For instance, we've got a long series there, and that's tapered down, so that's not, it's an 1/2 inch collet it goes into. The size is 7/16. Is that? That's a 2 flute, which would be great for travelling away in a slot in aluminium. Again, into the 1/2 inch collet, tighten it in, put it in, fit it, blah blah blah. There's no point in me telling you and showing you how to fit it and how to lock it up, because there is other videos that I've put on that show that. Okay, so that's an 1/2 inch set. We'll move that one away and bring this one in. This is the biggest I've got. And again, I haven't got a huge amount of cutters for these, but I've used them a lot and they're great. Right, that's 5/8. So that's a 5/8 collet, which I believe is probably the largest that will maybe go in this machine, in this holder, I don't know. But again, you see, that's your 5/8, but the actual cutter is 3/4, so that's a 3/4 cutter. Really good for travelling metal out. You know, HSS. I wouldn't be able to sharpen these. I haven't got a tool and cutter grinder. A bit dirty that once I clean. But they're great. Clarkson, can't knock them. They're probably the most rigid setup that you could get is Clarkson, or that type, because the way that it holds together and locks together, it's probably pretty much unbeatable. Okay, we'll knock off there. That's enough really for HSS stuff and the Clarkson. I've told you really all that I can about that, other than fitting it and showing you it working, which, as I say, there is videos that I've done in the past that have got that on. Okay, I'll put all this lot away and I'll come back with some other stuff to show you, and it'll be cutters again. Okay. Another little thing I'm going to show you before I come out with the carbide cutters and things is these little trays. You might have just seen them with these cutters in, and they're just a little serrated tray, and they're a great little thing for holding your cutters or indeed drill bits in your drawer. It stops them all rattling about. So if you've got a drawer, I mean, I have down here, what is it, Bisley, one of those little Bisley drawers, and it fits them perfect widthwise, and it holds quite a few, and they come in a pack. I don't know whether there was something like 10 in a pack. They weren't expensive, but what a good addition for your little drawers for holding cutters and drill bits instead of them rattling about in the bottom of your drawer, or you know, sat on a piece of cloth or something. Great little addition. Just thought I'd show you that. So this is some of my carbide tooling and other stuff. I don't believe that is, I think that's HSS. That's a dovetail cutter, which I use for when I made my tool holders for my quick change tool post. 60 degree or something, I can't remember the angle. Yeah, 30 by 60 degrees. These can all be held in what I use an ER collet holder, which I'm sure most people do that has a milling machine. Those are thinking of getting a milling machine, it's probably your go-to is an ER collet holder. Again, MT2 on mine, M10 drawbar, some people have MT3, some have R8, there's all sorts of different sizes, and the old stuff int, and there's all sorts. And that's the little general purpose collets for it. They start from dinky, which is that 2-1, so 1 to 2 millimeter metric set. I think this is 16. Yeah, it's one off as the marking, but that's the biggest one I've got. And they're great because they hold your work parallel. One thing to note, I'll get a one out that, and I'll get the appropriate collet that fits it. So let's start with, that's an 8mm, and that's from Merlin Tools. That's a good quality one. This is solid carbide. You can tell carbide, it weighs a ton. It's like lifting a piece of lead. This is an unused one. This is a 4-flute cutter. And 2 of the flutes go to the centre, which means with that you can actually plunge. You could actually drill a hole with it. You probably wouldn't, but you could. And if you want to do counter boring, they're great for that. So let's find a holder that fits it. There we go. So that was the right holder for it, which is 8/7. So I'm assuming that's 8mm, and that fits in to that holder, into that collet, sorry. If you're going to do work, don't just put the collet in just a little bit. Push it well in, and ideally right to the back. Then when this tightens down into its taper, when that goes down, let's put this in here, you're going to get a full grip, because this is tapered, is the seating of it, and that's going to grip the whole length of that cutter. Very, very stable here, very, very cheap. They're not expensive to buy. I've no doubt if you went for a really good branded make, and I don't know what a good branded make could be, I've no idea who makes all these, and I can only assume this came with my milling machine when I bought it, and the range of collets too. And I'm sure it's just a cheap imported set, but it's been absolutely superb. There's no run out whatsoever when you're running it. So don't be afraid of buying a cheap one of these, because they're not always too bad. Well, mine isn't. I can't vouch for some of the makes, I've no idea. But they're great, and all you do, as I say, is you select the appropriate collet for the size of the cutter you're going to use, and in you go. But they're expensive cutters, are these. No expense spared, we will talk about that. That is a 3 flute. Now that one blade, actually one blade does go right to the middle, so you maybe could plunge cut with that as well as slot. We'll read out what it says. Brand new, again, Carbide. Let's read the description of it, and I'll tell you the history of these. Right, so this is Swiss Tech SWT 1614806A, is just some number. 6mm plain short 3 flute slot drill carbide. Swiss Tech are a good make. That's another Swiss Tech, a much bigger one. That one's 12mm, and that says 3 flute slot drill. Again, brand new, never used. Again, one tooth, one flute does go to the centre, so I do suspect you could plunge with that too. Heavy as hell. Can't mistake it for carbide. What else we got? Another one. I picked this up. I don't know where I got this from. It says Kemp F, and it says on it, let's read it. A load of foreign language I can't read. And it says solid carbide router, 8mm diamond cut knot end cutting burr, LOC equals 35mm, and some other writing that I can't read because there's a sticker over it. What a funny thing it is. Look at that, it's a right rasp. Not used it, but I bet that can travel some metal away. Router. I'll buy some junk, me. I bet it wasn't cheap either. It's shiny, but it's heavy, so I don't know whether that's carbide or not. While you're on with your collet holders, that's the little countersink. I've got a set of 3 of them. Very, very cheap. But again, you just select a collet that it'll fit in. There you go. You select a collet, it'll fit, and away you go. This one's some sort of a angle cutter. It's a good make. They're all old. Stelram. That's got like a lathe bit in it. Insert. And it cuts at that angle. So I'm guessing if you had a hole, you could actually cut a taper in that hole of that angle, whatever that angle is. This thing I did try using and it works. This is an Iscar. Again, it'll not have been cheap. 16mm, so I have got a collet that fits it. And that's a radius cutter. So if you want to cut a half round groove down a piece of material, then that'll do it. If you just wanted to cut down the corner, the outside corner of a piece of material, that'd give you a 1/4 radius cut. Fancy thing, innit? Again, I picked a stack of these up, all second hand, as a job lot. That's another thing I was going to mention to you. Oh, first of all, fly cutter. This set of 3 fly cutters, again, they're only cheap imported ones. They work. I have used one of them, not that one, that hasn't been sharpened properly yet. And again, that fits into the collet holder. So all these little things. Your birthday coming up, Christmas is coming up, whatever. You know, dad, granddad, uncle. Usually granddad, because we're talking workshop here, aren't we? So it'd be granddad. What do you want for Christmas? And the fly cutters, you know, all these little things you can ask for as presents because they're not expensive. Okay, I said I'd talk about these. Now, these are very, very expensive cutters, and if you wanted to buy yourself a cutter to do a little job, you probably wouldn't want to go down the route of this Swiss Tech or Merlin tools or whatever, because they're not cheap. They're not mega expensive, but to me they are. You could go on eBay and probably buy, what's that one? That's a 12mm short 3-flute slot. If you put that in on eBay or any auction site and do a search, you'd probably find one of them for maybe, I don't know, 12, 14 quid or less even. Free delivery from China or wherever, India. And they'd probably do the job quite good. I don't know how long they'd last, but they'd do the job. If you went for that, I think you might find that might be up in the 30s. Could be 37 quid or something. I'm only guessing. I did look once and they were silly money. So I'm so rich that I could just buy all these. No, not at all. I went on. I had this obsession of looking for tools job lot. And when you look at job lot, there's lots of people like me, probably, I don't know, an eighth of the way through my hobby of messing in the garage. Some people are just starting, but there's an awful lot that are packing it in, and there's an awful lot, unfortunately, that are under bereavement and have passed away, and the families are selling. And a lot of families, they'll probably get one of these companies in and say, you know, how much for everything, and they'll say, oh, this lot's not worth out, and they'll give them a few quid and they think it's okay, and then they'll go away and sell all this lot, which a lot of them do. Odd ones do job lot, but most of them, if he bought 100 of these, he'd probably be selling them one at a time because he knows he can get more money that way, a dealer. But there's a lot of people that just want rid. So you put job lot in, which I did, and I found this guy. I don't know whether they were in Swindon. He was down south. He might even watch this YouTube video, I don't know. And if he does, thank you very much. Absolutely superb what I got off you. I got a stack of these. In fact, I'm going to show you what I got. We got those, all brand new, never used, brand spanking new. They're 4, 6 and 8mm. Then these are 10 and 12mm. Come on, stop messing me about. So I've got 2 drawers there full of Carbide, brand new cutters. I also got some other stuff which I'm going to show you later, but that's in the next little bit that we're going to do. So all this lot. So yes, I got all this lot, and what I've just shown you in the drawers, how much. There's a lot more to show you that I got from the same guy. I think I paid £155. Now, I know £155 not cheap, but if you've bought a milling machine and you've paid a couple of grand for it and you want to set it up for tooling, which I did, I got all this lot, and if I'd have started buying one at a time of a good make, you'd soon get up to £100, wouldn't you? So I thought I got an absolute bargain. I'll show you what else I got with it, but I'll just pause this and swap everything over so I can show you. The next thing I'll show you is, this is a little rotary table I bought, and I've got to admit I did buy it in error. It's marked up as Garvin. I've no idea who Garvin is. It was only cheap, and it's only a 3-inch one, and it's too small really. I'm not going to get it out of the box. It looks a bit oily, so I've just sprayed it with some Target spray I've got, which is anti-rust. I noticed when I took the cover off that damp had got into the box lid, and it started to rust a bit, because I've never actually used it. It's got 4 T-slots in, it's got all the bits you want, a lock on it and an angle. It stands up vertical, it does horizontal, and it's a great little thing, but it's too small. I think I tried using it once and it wouldn't do the job, so I replaced that and I bought myself it's like a Vertex copy. It's not a Vertex, I don't know whose it is again, I have no name. A 6-inch one, but it's great, and if you've watched my previous videos again, you will have seen it in operation. I'll just shift that out of the way. One thing I did forget was a couple of things you might need if you've got a milling machine is a couple of discom knockerating sticks. You've got a little thumpy hammer there which you pick up at your local car accessory shop, soft faced, one's a bit harder than the other, but they're alright for knocking stuff around. And that's a Thor. It wasn't silly money, but it wasn't cheap. It's a copper faced Thor hammer, and I use that for things like when I undo my drawbar, I only undo it like 1.5 threads and then give it a tap on the top, and two taper breaks and your part falls out. So they are a must. There's a couple of little hammers, but again, not going to break your bank. Cutters. This is, let's have a look, is it? Yeah, this is an import one that I bought, and if you look at making sparks or something, I called it, I don't know, one of my videos, you'll see this in use. And it literally, well, in fact, my introduction when you first turn on my YouTube videos, this is what the culprit is that caused all the sparks. It was very, very cheap and cheerful. It works, and it does cut metal. It's on an import Chinese arbor, which is spot on, and it probably just needs these inserts changing out for some good quality ones, and it'd probably be okay. It wasn't expensive. I cannot remember how much it was, but it wasn't expensive. These came with those carbide milling cutters that I showed you. We'll start with smallest. One of these is a Stelram, I think, can't remember what other one is, on a Chinese arbor. That is, I can only describe it as superb. It cuts beautifully, does that, really nice. It's well used, well old, but it does cut lovely. 2 for 6 flute, and it's 2-inch, 50mm. It's a 50mm diameter, but my little Tom Senior drives it lovely, as you'll have seen on my videos. Next up, we'll go to that one last, is a big boy. I think this is 60. This is 60mm 5 flute, 5 insert, and again, absolutely stunning. The chip on that tooth. Cuts absolutely beautiful. A good make, it's a wide axe. That won't have been cheap when it went new. That'll have been silly money when it went new, but it came in all that gear I bought off that guy. Again, with no arbor. I had to buy all the arbors myself. This one is a bit unique, and I've never seen out like this before, but I wouldn't, would I, because I'm on pretty new to all this. But this is a, oh, come on, I did look it up, there's all part numbers there on it. I'm sure this were wide axe, don't know, but it's 60mm diameter, but these cutters are round and they're indexable. So it's got 2, 4, 6 cutters. And when I say they're indexable, if you can see here, little slots at the back all the way around. They're marked from 1 to 8. You undo the cutters, and I believe you're supposed to do them all together, you know, as a thing. So you start off with number 1. Number 1 starts to wear. You can turn them all round to number 2, number 3, number 4, right through to 8. And basically, you're just turning that disc round. Again, an industrial sort of thing that you'd probably never buy for a hobby mill, but came with all that gear. That alone, well, I know because I looked it up when I bought this lot. I looked that up, and I'm sure it was over 300 quid. That alone comes to more than what I paid for all the lot. So Job Lot, you can't go wrong. If you're going to look for stuff, try Job Lot. It works. And what else we got? This is an ER25 collet block. That's an hexagonal one, so that does yeah, like a nut, like a bolt. So if you wanted to do a dead square, you put it in, turn it, put it, sorry, if you want to do an hexagon, each time you turn it with your work and do a cut, you're going to create a hexagon. And it's ER25, so it takes all those collets. I bought that, again, it's a cheap one, but it works. And it was a good little addition. These are all things you can buy as you go along. You don't have to buy everything at once. Cutters. I bought this set, again, very cheap. And I'm not sure as the longevity of them and how long they're going to last. But this is, again, a radius cutter. That, it starts off a real dinky little one there. And moves up to a great big one. You can tell I've never used them. I think I've used one once, that one. HSS R10, so it's a 10mm radius. So if you want on the edge of a piece of work, I don't know if you make one of these little steam engines and you want to make the plate that you mount it all on nice, on, I don't know, a piece of aluminium or whatever, then that little baby will do it. You just got to be careful not to go in too far to make the top or the bottom edge. If you just go it right, I did try it on a piece of work and it worked lovely. Yeah. Again, what do you want for Christmas, Dad? While we're on the subject of cutting, I picked this lot up. Again, second hand, quite cheap. And I was fortunate that all these blades were like brand new. Slitting saws. And they were all good quality ones. I'm not sure if they're not Sherwood. That one's Wardson. 2 3/4 by 40 by 1 pitch. That's a very fine one. Got some bigger blades. That one's a Sherwood. It came with 3 different arbors, of all which I can get in. A diamond wheel, which I've never had out, but grab that before I lose it. I'll wash it. Yeah, a diamond wheel. Looks a bit scabby, but that's a diamond. Whether I'll ever use it, I don't know. Lots of different packing washers and things, and a great big bag full of a stack of all different size cutters, all pretty much unused and all right good make. Not cheap things, good quality. I can't tell you how much I paid for those, I can't remember, but I think it was from eBay with that. I don't think that was from an engineering sale. I don't think. Put them to one side. This is something nice that I bought, and I bought this off an industrial, was it industrial, or was it a farm sale? I think it might have been a farm sale, and I went to the farm to pick this up in York. I bid on 2 of them, but I only won this one, and I paid 32 quid for this. Paid him cash when I went to pick it up, and it didn't work. If you watch my channel, you'll have seen this before. It didn't work. It was just jumping all the time. The clutch was slipping. and I modified it all. I spent ages altering it, not big mods, but just playing about, and eventually got it working great. And it didn't come with any collets to hold taps, so that's an automatic tapping head. You drive it with an MT2 taper. You turn your machine down, it's pretty slowish, not too slow but not too fast. Bit of lube into your tap, I don't know, M3, M4, M5, M6, whatever size, and you go down into your work and it taps the hole. When you're down as far as you want to be, and if you set this right, it'll slip, won't break the tap, it'll slip. You then let your arm back up, your quill, and as you bring it back up and that pulls down, it goes in reverse and reverses itself out, all with it still in normal clockwise direction of the quill drive. This thing reverses itself, so you can just plunge 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes. You know, if you had a stop in your vise, I think if you look at Joe Pye on YouTube, he uses one and he made a jig, and it's amazing how many holes you can tap. If you've loads and loads of tapping to do, great thing to have. It's 32 quid, God knows how much that was when it was new. It's an SPV. Do you need one? Do you, hell? Half of stuff I've got you don't need. It's just I'm a bit of an order, and when I see something I think, oh yeah, I'll bid on that, and I get it home and think, right, I'll put that in cupboard and I'll use that, and put it in cupboard, and of course next thing you forgot you've even got it. I'm a bugger for it. What else we got? Yes, cutting. We're still going to show cutting. I bought this and I haven't used it up to press, and most of my YouTubers, my subscribers will have one of these, I should imagine, or a lot of you will. And I bought this more recently, and it's a boring bar. Look, I haven't even had it screwed in, but it's a nice, again, a cheap foreign import boring bar. They only have one problem, these boring bars, is that it comes, you can see this, it comes with all these lovely cutters, all different size cutters, so you put them in your thing and away you go and cut your hole. As you can see, that would go clockwise and it would cut the hole, and plunge down you would go. If you tried to put it in anti-clockwise like a friend of mine did on his beaver miller machine, the thing unscrews itself and you're going to have a mess. He ended up welding his up, so it looks a right mess. Because if you want to cut something, right, let's get the bit, I'll show you. This is what I bought separately. So if you want to bore a hole that's large and you want to use this, not the bottom, the side, so you want to bore a hole, so let's put that in there and we'll set it to bore a barrel, a cylinder barrel. That's on the wrong way around. That cutter blade's the wrong way. They all are. You cannot use this as a boring bar in the side with the 8, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 cutters come with this, and they're all the same way. You cannot use any of them cutters as a boring bar in the side to bore a large hole. So what I did do is I bought, let's get this right, a right hand, that's a left hand boring bar which cuts to the right, and that will, because you put that in, then you've got your cut now, and I can go clockwise and I can cut. I've got to buy that separately. Why the hell they don't come with one, I don't know, but none of them do. This is how you get them. Bit weird. And as I say, you can't run them in reverse because they unscrew themselves, so you can't say, well, I'll bore a hole anti-clockwise, because you can't do it. Lovely thing. I haven't used it, but I've seen them in use and they're great, handy to have. One day I'll be making some, and I'll definitely want to use it. So I think for actual machining, I've showed you pretty much everything. This is a cheap import chuck, and it's a 1:16 on a B16. Somebody did mention that they thought that this was sticking out a long way, and I suppose if you look at it against my lathe one, it is sticking out a long way. I did look at some of my other tooling that's got these on, and they stick out a long way too, but it's tight and it's in, and it's the right taper, and it's braiding tight, so I don't know, you tell me, but it works. So that's for the milling machine, because it's got the M10 drawbar thread and the M22 taper, so that's specifically for the milling machine, for drilling holes generally. Wouldn't use it for anything else. Right, we'll knock off there and I'll do a changeover and we'll talk about what's next. Measurements and work holding, I guess. Yeah, measuring and work holding.